A serving of movie theater popcorn costs about 40 cents to make. You'll pay around $8 for it. That's a markup of 1,275%. Now, you probably already assumed the popcorn was the scam. Fine, here's the part you didn't assume. The theater barely makes a dime on the actual movie. The film you came to see, the whole reason you drove there, is basically the bait. The popcorn is the business. Every American knows this feeling. You buy the ticket, then you hit the concession stand, and somehow the snacks cost more than the movie did. About 70% of people buy something anyway. You'd think that's just greed. It isn't. It's survival. To understand why, you have to go back to the 1930s. During the Great Depression, theaters were elegant, carpeted, snooty. They banned snacks, too messy. Street vendors sold cheap popcorn on the sidewalk outside instead. 5, 10 cents a bag. The theaters that survived the Depression were the ones that swallowed their pride and dragged the popcorn cart inside. But here's where it gets genuinely strange. When you buy a movie ticket, the theater doesn't keep it. On average, the movie studio takes around 60%. On a big opening weekend, the studio can take even more. So, from an $11 ticket, the theater might keep $3 or $4. The rest goes to Hollywood. So, the film you drove across town for barely covers the theater's rent. Most people never notice this. Subscribe if you'd rather be one who does. Now, back to the popcorn. Because think about what the theater is left holding. A giant building, rent, staff, projectors, electricity, heating, all paid for with $3 a head. That math doesn't work. It has never worked, which is exactly why the popcorn exists. So sit with 3 questions for a second. 1, if popcorn is such a goldmine, why is AMC sitting on $9 billion of debt? 2, why would any business basically give away its main product, the movie? And 3, what's the new trick in 2026 that makes $8 popcorn look quaint? Hold those. Look at the actual numbers. In the first half of 2023, AMC pulled in $817 million in food and drink. The cost of that food and drink, $153 million. That's an 81% profit margin. On snacks, a soda and a bag of corn are, financially speaking, the healthiest thing in the building. And it's not a side hustle, it's the core. Concessions are about 36% of AMC's entire revenue. For Cinemark, it's closer to 39%. These aren't movie companies that happen to sell snacks. They're snack companies that happen to show movies. The film is the customer acquisition cost. The popcorn is the product. Here's the lever that makes the whole markup possible. Once you're inside, there is nowhere else to go. No other snack counter. No competitor across the street. You either pay $8 or you watch 2 hours of a film hungry. Economists have a clean word for this, inelastic. You'll pay almost anything because you have almost no choice. You are, in the politest possible terms, trapped with a cup holder. So that's question 2, answered. The theater gives away the movie because the movie isn't the product. It's the bait that walks a captive, hungry customer past a popcorn machine. But here's the mechanism almost nobody has noticed. Because even 81% margins stopped being enough. So in 2026, they ran the same trick, one more layer up. The collectible popcorn bucket in 2023. AMC sold special edition buckets for 9 movies. In 2026, they're planning more than 40. A bucket shaped like a movie prop. $40, $50, one tied to a Christopher Nolan film, sold out in about an hour, then restocked and sold out again. In 2023 alone, AMC pulled $54 million from merchandise and collectible buckets. Look at what just happened. For 90 years, the movie was bait to sell popcorn. Now, the popcorn is bait to sell you a $50 piece of plastic. The product was never on the screen. It was in your hands the whole time. And this answers the last question. The $9 billion in debt. Because the popcorn margin is real. It's just holding up an enormously expensive building, a Hollywood cut, and decades of debt. The average theater's total profit margin, after everything, is around 4%, which raises an obvious question. Why would anyone run a movie theater at all? Because 4% of billions is still hundreds of millions of dollars. A thin slice of a giant pie is still a lot of pie. So the next time someone groans about $8 popcorn, you'll know the truth. That popcorn isn't the ripoff. It's the only thing keeping the lights on. The trick is always in the numbers. So here's a question. If a movie theater can hide its real business behind a bag of popcorn, what about the brands sitting in your house right now? The toothpaste, the detergent, the razors. You think you're buying from a dozen different companies. You're not. One company owns almost all of them, and it's worth $84 billion. That video's on the channel right now. You just learned what most people never will. See you in the next video.